Welcome to the Jeff Crilley Show. And now, here's Jeff Crilley.
Welcome back to the Jeff Crilley Show. I know cybersecurity is top of mind. It's really one of the most critical issues facing this country right now because everything from a small business, a grocery store, all the way up to the U.S. government has been breached. My next guests, Tony Curtale and Caitlin Rottino. Welcome to the Jeff Crilley Show. You're with a company called InteProIQ.
Thanks for having us, Jeff.
Yeah, thanks, Jeff.
Now, we'll start with you, Tony. What does your company do?
Well, we offer a suite of products and features that result in accurate and affordable WISC compliance. And people say, what's WISC compliant? That's written information security programs that are regulated federally mandated by the state and federal government.
And why is that so important, Caitlin?
It's important because business data breaches are the biggest issue now in 2016 and beyond. The statistics are the proof in the pudding, and in fact, it's often overlooked or dismissed because businesses assume that they are already protected because they either have their IT guy or software, firewalls, but this is just not true at all. And unfortunately, this misconception is the downfall of businesses and is why our written information security program is imperative to have.
Well, as Caitlin mentioned there, people assume when they have a firewall or software that they're protected, but it's really a people issue. 72% of all breaches are through human error. What we do is train your people and then risk assess your business, give you a plan if you are breached, and then help make sure your supply chain is in compliance.
Wow. Tony, what are some of the riskier things that employees do? Maybe they're not intending to, but what are some things that they might do? Like if I downloaded a new software or something like that on the company computer, am I putting my company at risk?
Absolutely. And we have a 12, in our training program, we have a 12 module training program for the employees. And one of those is about just that. Sharing your emails, your passwords, not encrypting certain emails that need to be encrypted, using your smartphone to download your email to send to something else, sometimes mixing Facebook with your company email. So there's a lot of different ways that people, basically most employees are great people. They want to do the right thing. They just don't know what to do sometimes.
I know many employers already have some kind of program where they bring in outsiders to teach them about diversity and other things to keep them from being sued. Caitlin, do you believe that this is one of those must-haves for businesses, large and small?
I do. I think it's imperative. And what's nice about InteProIQ is that the training has a designated coordinator, and it's very personalized from whether you're the CEO or CFO of a company all the way down, with all the employees. So in this day and age, yes, I think, again, there are so many ways that breaches can happen. And like Tony had mentioned, human error is one, but there are many, many other different ways, and you need to be educated on it. Absolutely.
Tony, let's talk about medical data, because I think I've read where the cyber thieves just love to get their hands on a medical file.
Absolutely, Jeff. And obviously it's for all businesses, but they say the files that the criminals steal are worth, and who knows exactly what it is, but they say $154 per file in regular businesses, like $383 per file in a medical business. So it certainly is. And in the November issue of the Dallas Medical Journal, they had an article in there, Trolling for Medical Nuggets, Cybersecurity for Your Practice. So it's definitely an important issue for any medical-related business. If you look at it, not only do they have your collection information, they have their own employees' information, including bank routing numbers and all that we all have, but they also have all your most intimate medical records that can be used a lot of different ways, including to acquire drugs down the road. So
no kidding.
Yeah.
I know, like in any medical file is your social security number. Yep. The thieves could actually impersonate you, open up multiple accounts under your name.
Absolutely. As individuals and sometimes as businesses, they've actually, we have examples where CEOs had his information stolen from his company, and people have used his information to start false businesses and then acquire cars and office space and things like that. So it proliferates quickly once it gets out of control.
Caitlin, I think small business owners forget that they can be sued for data breaches. It's not just enough to say, "Oh, well, I've got this firewall." You're liable if somebody steals your client's information or personal data. You could be sued for millions of dollars, could you not?
Absolutely. And that's one thing that we do have is that we have documented protection, and this helps in court, and will hold up.
That's a great point. So if somebody did get sued, having your company come in and do some training ahead of time is actually a positive thing for a court case, does it? Am I right?
Yes, we do not claim to offer them any protection that you can't be breached. We lessen your risks of being breached. If you get breached, we can give you a plan to nip it as soon as possible. And the obvious thing is the mitigation with lawyers. If you're in there and you say, I have no state and federally mandated written information security program, you're liable for your liability is maybe unlimited. If you say, hey, we hired InteProIQ, trained all our people, we had a plan when we found out about the breach, and and go right down the list, it helps mitigate damages. It's certainly a tool to help small and medium-sized businesses stay in business.
So how do people engage you? What happens? They go to your website?
Yes, they can go to our website, and that would probably be the best way to get in touch with us.
So it's InteProIQ. How do you spell that?
InteProIQ.com.
And they schedule an appointment for you to come out to do training, or what happens?
Yeah, usually, obviously, we'll go in there because it's a lot of information people get their heads around. That's the problem with Caitlin. We're talking to a lot of people, great business people, smarter than I am, but they're trying to, either a doctor's trying to help people, business people are trying to help their employees and make some money, and sometimes they don't think it's a big enough detail, and it's not a one-page where I can come in and say, here's the deal, and this is what you need. So Caitlin and I will go out and visit, and we'll help them get their head around it, and inevitably, every time we have been able to spend time with people, they figured out, like, yeah, I have to have this, first of all, and for the price, it's probably the best thing I've done.
Wow. How often should they have you guys come back?
Well, the regulations say once a year so we'll be once a year, but our people will be working with them throughout the year, updating their written programs, the written information programs, the risk assessments, those types of things, training employees if they bring somebody new on board, that type of thing.
Caitlin, let's talk about the importance of a difficult password, because I know so many people are guilty of doing 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. That's
Sure.
not a good password.
Sure. No, and then you use as a password over and over and over again. But again, what's important to know and recognize about InteProIQ is that this is what we do. We train you and educate you on this, and take you through the steps. And although it is, again, like I said earlier, sometimes people want to dismiss it because it is quite a bit of information, but it is important information and something that every business should have.
Absolutely. Tony, did you have some other information that you wanted?
Just again, as we're talking about that, people always say, is a WISP, a written information security program, really required? So sometimes you got to give them the technical stuff. As the government encroaches, once they get a law in place, several agencies have now busted businesses and used the same laws. But the main ones are the Federal Trade Commission. They've evolved into the broadest and most powerful data protection agency in the U.S. They have a safeguards rule under the Graham-Leach-Bliley Act of Congress, and then they have a Section 5 of the FTC Act. The federal FCC Communications and the SEC is another big one. They have several security firms now, which also handle so much information and have so many different ways. There was one example in the SEC busted a company, and this company had gotten information, and they were trading stocks under a person's name on one side and shorting them on the other.
Wow.
And somehow they were making money out of that, and people didn't even know for quite a while. So
let me add something to this also very quickly. It also is, along with it being a lot of information sometimes, and not to ever say that someone wouldn't understand it, but we also then get that one-on-one personal attention to that person to really explain it, because sometimes the big words and the laws and this and that, it can also be a turnoff to people. But this gives us the opportunity and gives clients to actually get
our
to know
whole
it.
thing, she's right on. And our whole thing, we want to help businesses stay in business. I think I mentioned earlier, most breaches are in small, medium-sized businesses, and they don't. And 72% of them, and 60% of those 72% that get breached go out of business in the first year because they can't afford what Target can afford if they get breached. So we're just trying to spread the word and make sure all the hardworking, 95% of businesses in the U.S. are small and medium-sized.
Tell us what is your sweet spot in terms of a company? Does it have to be a certain number of employees for you to make sense to bring in?
No, not really. We have some friends of ours that are doctors. They had 4 employees, but it's critical to them because, as we mentioned, the medical industry is so ripe with information, and we do companies in the thousands. So really, we can handle any small, medium-sized business, and it's required by all.
And so is it like you get the employees together in a conference room and you're showing them some PowerPoints? Or, Caitlin, what happens during these training seminars?
Well, it's actually, like I said, you have a designated personal coordinator. And Tony, I'm going to let him go into it a little bit more because he's a little bit more well-versed on what exactly happens. But
yeah, as Caitlin mentioned, you'll appoint a coordinator. We will then download all our modules for all your employees to go through. 12 modules, take approximately 3 hours. Your coordinator can see who started them, how far along they are, who's finished them, so you have verifiable training with all your employees. Then the people within our company will go through your risk assessments and your written information policies, either updating yours or you can use our policies and modify them to your own business. So as Caitlin mentioned, it's very personable. And then we'll make sure your supply chain's in compliance because that's something that people miss. And I may have mentioned it, but Target actually got breached through a supplier, So
Is that right?
Yes. So you actually need your supply chain has to be in compliance also. And that is also a state and federal regulation.
Give us the website one more time.
it's InteProIQ.com. So InteProIQ.com.
Thank you. Thank you for being a great guest on the Jeff Crilley Show.
Oh, thank you,
for
Jeff.
having
Really appreciate
us.
being out here. Yep.
Absolutely. There are so many critical issues facing our country right now: the economy, energy, and the environment, education. Coming up next on the Jeff Crilley Show, a man who founded a leadership group to tackle some of those programs.
More of the Jeff Crilley Show coming up.